Have you ever found yourself searching for answers in the noise of the world, only to realize the real answers are found in silence? In the mountains of ancient Japan, in the wooden halls of old monasteries, in the silent stare of a monk sipping tea, there exists a quiet power. A power that doesn't come from books or loud speeches, but from simplicity, from presence, from Zen. Today, I invite you to sit back, slow your breath, and enter that world. Let me tell you 10 stories. Stories not meant to impress, but to awaken. Stories told by monks, lived by seekers, and now passed on to you. These are the whispers of Zen. Let's begin. The gift of nothing. There was once a Zen monk who lived deep in the mountains. He had no possessions, just a bowl, a robe, and a straw mat. People came from faraway lands to learn from him. One such man, a wealthy merchant, wanted to show his gratitude after hearing the monk's teachings. He returned to the monastery one winter morning carrying a heavy box wrapped in silk. "Master," he said, "I've brought you a gift. It's very expensive. Please accept it." The monk looked at the merchant kindly, but said nothing. He took the gift and slowly unwrapped it. Inside was a beautiful golden statue of the Buddha. The merchant smiled with pride, but the monk only looked up and said, "I already have everything I need. You have brought me too much." The merchant was confused. "Too much? But it's a symbol of your own path." The monk smiled. "The best gift is nothing. Nothing leaves space for everything else to enter." He gave the statue back and bowed. Zen teaches us that emptiness is not the absence of something. It's the openness to everything. When you give someone your silence, your presence, your stillness, that is the true gift. The gift of nothing. Is that so? In a small village, there lived a humble Zen master. People often came to him for advice, and he responded with few words and deep calm. One day, a young woman in the village became pregnant. When her parents forced her to reveal the father's name, she pointed to the Zen master. The entire town was shocked. The villagers stormed into the master's hut, shouting and accusing. "So it was you," they screamed. "You have shamed her. You must take responsibility." The master simply replied, "Is that so?" He took in the child, raised it, and never said a word in his defense. Years passed. Eventually, the young woman confessed the truth. The real father was a man from the neighboring village. The villagers, horrified, rushed to the Zen master to apologize. "You must be angry," they said. "We wronged you." The master handed the child back and said, "Is that so?" No anger, no blame, just acceptance. This story reminds us that Zen is not about being right or wrong. It's about flowing with life, like a river that does not stop to judge the rocks it passes. The Zen master teaches us that when we drop the need to react, we discover peace. True peace. The temple bell. Once, in an ancient Zen temple surrounded by tall pine trees, a curious little boy came to visit. He had heard tales of a magical bell that could sing louder than thunder. When he saw the giant bronze bell hanging in the courtyard, he ran up and tried to ring it. He hit it hard with the wooden beam. The bell echoed with a deep hum that made the birds fly from the trees. The boy laughed. "I made the bell sing." A monk nearby smiled gently. "Did you? Or did the bell sing because of everything around it? The wood, the air, the silence?" The boy frowned. "I don't understand." The monk knelt beside him and said, "The bell does not sing alone. Its sound comes from the strike, the stillness, the space around it, and your heart that listens." He then asked the boy to sit silently before the bell. Moments passed. Then the monk rang it once more. This time, the boy didn't laugh. He closed his eyes and felt it. not the sound, but what was beneath the sound. In Zen, the temple bell is a symbol, a reminder that truth is not found in noise, but in what lies beneath it. The silence before and after, the stillness that listens, of the broken teacup. There was a student who studied under a Zen master in a remote temple. He was impatient by nature, always seeking answers, always wanting to know more. One evening, the master invited the student to his quarters for tea. The master poured the tea slowly with care into 2 delicate porcelain cups. They sat in silence, sipping. Then, with no warning, the master placed his cup on the floor and crushed it beneath his foot. The student jumped. "Master, that was your favorite cup. Why did you break it?" The master replied softly, "The cup was already broken." The student blinked, confused. The master continued, "From the moment it was made, it was destined to break. I loved it while it lasted, but I never held on to the illusion that it would remain." That night, the student could not sleep. He lay awake thinking, not just of the teacup, but of everything he was afraid to lose. His possessions, his youth, even his teacher. In Zen, impermanence is not a tragedy, it's the truth. And in accepting that everything is already broken, already passing, we become free to cherish each moment, just as it is. Zen in a bowl of rice. A monk named Ryokan was known for his poetry, his kindness, and his extremely simple life. He lived in a tiny hut, slept on a wooden plank, and ate just 1 bowl of rice a day. One day, a young traveler found him eating and asked, "Master, why don't you teach more? Why don't you write books or open a temple? You are wasting your gifts." Ryokan looked up and smiled. Then he handed the traveler his bowl of rice and said, "Taste this." The traveler did. It was plain, but warm and nourishing. Ryokan said, "This rice is my teaching." The traveler looked puzzled. "It's just rice." Ryokan said nothing more and returned to eating. It was only later that the traveler understood. The monk wasn't wasting his gifts, he was living them. Every grain of rice was his temple, every movement a teaching, every breath a sermon. Zen in a bowl of rice means finding the sacred in the simple. We wait for big miracles, while life quietly cooks small ones each day. A flower for the Buddha. Long ago, the Buddha sat before a gathering of his disciples. On this day, he did not speak. He simply held up a single lotus flower. The disciples waited for a sermon, a lesson, a parable. But the Buddha said nothing. Minutes passed. The crowd grew restless. Only one disciple, Mahakashyapa, looked at the flower and smiled. The Buddha nodded. Then he spoke. "I possess the true teaching, and I now give it to Mahakashyapa." That was all. No scripture, no lecture. Just a flower, a smile, and a silent understanding. This moment is said to be the origin of Zen. It teaches that truth cannot always be spoken. Sometimes it is better transmitted in silence, in a look, in a flower held quietly in hand. Zen is not something we explain. It is something we recognize beyond words. The mirror mind. There was once a young monk who struggled with anger and fear. He would meditate daily, chant mantras, and study the scriptures, but his mind remained turbulent. Frustrated, he went to the abbot and said, "Master, my thoughts are wild. My emotions are like fire. I cannot find peace." The abbot took the monk to a still lake and said, "Look into the water. What do you see?" "I see my reflection," said the monk. The abbot then threw a stone into the lake. Ripples disturbed the surface. "Now what do you see?" asked the abbot. "Nothing, just distortion." The abbot said, "Your mind is this lake. When disturbed, it reflects nothing clearly. But when still, it becomes a mirror." The monk bowed in understanding. Over time, he stopped fighting his thoughts. He watched them like ripples, He let them come and go. And one day, in that stillness, he saw clearly both himself and the world. Zen calls this the mirror mind, the state where clarity returns not by force, but by peace. Burn the scriptures. In a temple nestled in a remote valley, there lived an old Zen master known for his radical wisdom. One day, a young scholar came to meet him. The scholar had studied hundreds of scriptures and memorized countless teachings. He bowed respectfully and said, "Master, I have come to discuss the Dharma." The master nodded and gestured for tea. As the young man spoke of sutras and doctrines, the master said nothing. He simply lit a candle and poured the tea. Then, to the scholar's shock, the master picked up a thick scripture lying on the table and set it on fire. "Master!" the scholar cried, rushing to extinguish it. "That's sacred!" The old master looked him in the eyes and said, "You cling to words, but you do not see." The scholar was silent. The master continued, "The map is not the territory. The finger is not the moon, and the scripture is not the truth." That day, the scholar learned a lesson no words could teach. In Zen, the burning of scriptures does not mean disrespect. It means liberation. When we cling too tightly to teachings, we miss the experience. True understanding must be lived, not just read. The cat in the temple. In an ancient monastery, a beautiful white cat roamed freely. It became beloved by the monks and was often seen curled up in meditation halls during sessions. Over time, some monks believed the cat brought peace. Others thought it was a distraction. Arguments began. To settle the matter, the abbot decreed, "During meditation, the cat shall be tied outside." Years passed. The cat died. But the practice continued. New monks came and, without question, tied a new cat outside the hall each day. They believed it was a sacred tradition. Centuries later, not a single monk remembered why the cat was tied at all. One day, a novice asked, "Master, why do we tie the cat before meditation?" The elder monk paused and realized he did not know. Zen teaches us to question rituals, not to reject them, but to understand them. When practice becomes mechanical, we lose the heart of it. The cat reminds us, follow the spirit, not the shadow. The roaring silence. There was once a young man who traveled across Japan, searching for the greatest Zen master alive. He climbed mountains, crossed rivers, and finally found a temple carved into the cliffs. There he met a master who was said to answer all questions with absolute truth. The young man bowed and asked, "What is the meaning of life?" The master said, "Nothing." Minutes passed. Frustrated, the man asked again, "Please, I've come so far, give me something." The master smiled faintly and pointed to the open window. Outside, the wind rustled through bamboo. A bird sang, leaves fell. Still, silence. And suddenly, the man understood. It was not an answer made of words. It was an answer made of being. He sat down, eyes wide with peace, and for the first time in years, he was quiet. In Zen, the greatest truths are not spoken. They are heard in silence. Silence that roars louder than thought. Silence that embraces everything. The roaring silence is not empty. It is full. Full of the present moment. Full of you. The Empty Boat. A story a Zen master once shared while sitting beside a still lake. A young monk loved meditating in a small wooden boat that he would paddle into the middle of the lake each morning. He enjoyed the quiet ripples, the silence, the stillness. It was there that his thoughts felt most pure. One foggy morning, as he sat in meditation, eyes closed, he felt a sudden jolt. Something had struck his boat. Annoyed, his peace disturbed, He opened his eyes, ready to shout at the careless person who had bumped into him. But when he looked, there was no one. It was just another empty boat, drifting freely with the current. At that moment, something shifted within him. The anger melted away, and he laughed. If there had been someone, he later said, I would have shouted, but the boat was empty. And in that emptiness, I saw the root of my anger. From that day on, the monk understood. Every time someone insulted him or caused him pain, he imagined their boat was also empty. Not because people have no responsibility, but because reacting only disturbs your own peace. Zen teaches us, the world may bump into you, but whether you stay angry or serene, that is your choice. Most of the time, we're yelling at empty boats. The master's last lesson. In a remote monastery high in the mountains, there lived an old Zen master who was greatly loved by his students. His teachings were simple, but profound. His presence was calm, and his gaze cut through illusion like a sword through silk. When he became gravely ill, the disciples gathered around him. Master, one of them whispered, before you go, please give us one final teaching. One last lesson. The master closed his eyes, his breath faint. A long silence followed. Then, just before he passed, he slowly lifted one finger and exhaled. Nothing more. After his passing, the disciples were puzzled. They debated the meaning of the raised finger. Was it a reference to unity, to awareness, to the silent now? One monk, who had been silently listening, finally spoke. It was not about the finger. They turned to him. He gave us the same lesson he gave all his life: presence, simplicity, silence. He pointed to nothing but this moment. Years later, the students still remembered that last breath, not as a mystery, but as the clearest teaching of all. Zen often ends where words do. The final lesson is to simply be. The unmoving cloud. Once, there was a young monk named Daiki who couldn't meditate. Every time he sat, thoughts raced through his mind. Memories, worries, plans. He envied the elder monks, who sat still as stones for hours. One day, he went to the abbot and said, Master, no matter what I do, my thoughts won't be still. The abbot took him outside and pointed to the sky. Look up, he said. Tell me what you see. Clouds, master, many of them. The abbot nodded, then asked, Do any of them stay still? Daiki watched for a moment and replied, No, they all move. The abbot smiled. Then why do you expect your thoughts to be different? Daiki looked confused. The abbot continued, Let them drift, but look beyond them. You see that one cloud there? The big one near the horizon? Yes. Watch it every day. Don't try to stop it. Just see if it ever stays. And so Daiki did. Day after day, he sat and watched the clouds. And while they kept moving, something inside him didn't. After weeks of watching, he began to notice a new kind of stillness, not in the sky, but in himself. In Zen, we learn that peace isn't stopping the clouds, it's becoming the sky. 3 days of silence. In a bustling Zen monastery, there was a young novice who spoke too much. He always had a question, an opinion, a joke. The older monks gently warned him, but he didn't stop. He thought talking showed his intelligence. One day, the abbot gave him a challenge. For the next 3 days, the master said, you must not speak a single word, not to me, not to yourself, not even in your mind. The novice laughed, then quickly stopped, realizing that even laughter was a sound. The first day passed slowly. He noticed how often he wanted to fill silence with noise, how uncomfortable stillness made him. The second day was harder. His thoughts screamed for attention. He realized he didn't just talk a lot, he thought too much. But on the third day, something beautiful happened. As he sat in the garden, a breeze passed through the trees, birds sang, the sun warmed his face. And for the first time in his life, he truly listened, not with his ears, but with his whole being. When the 3 days ended, the abbot asked, "What did you learn?" The novice bowed and whispered, "Everything I've ever said was less true than what I found in silence." From that day on, he spoke less but with more meaning. His silence was no longer emptiness, it was presence. In Zen, we often discover that the loudest truths come from the quietest places. And so, these were the 10 stories of Zen. 10 whispers from monks and masters who walked barefoot through rain, who smiled at flowers, who found the infinite in a single breath. If even one of these stories made you pause, even for a second, then Zen has touched you. Remember, Zen is not something you find in a monastery. It is in your teacup, in the stillness between your thoughts, in the space between your breaths. You don't have to go anywhere. Just be here. And if you felt something today, peace, wonder, stillness, share it. Like this video so more people can find this quiet space. Comment and let us know which story touched your heart. And subscribe so we can walk this peaceful path together again. Until next time, breathe deeply and smile gently. You're already home.